Hello, this is Judy, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the February 2nd, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. I will do my best to pronounce all names and words correctly, yet please forgive me if I do not. Our first article is Groundhog Day 2026. Willie in Ontario, Fred in Quebec predict early spring's arrival. Quebec's Fred La Marmotte, Marmotte, has made his predictions on Groundhog Day, calling for an early spring. And there's a picture of, and it's of a groundhog, and it's former South Bruce Peninsula Mayor Gary Michi looks at Wharton Willie during the Groundhog Day event in Wharton on February 2nd, 2023. And that's a Canadian Press file photo taken by Doug Ball. This is in Halifax, and the article is by the Canadian Press. Canada's most procrastinating rodents are predicting an early spring. Wharton Willie in Bruce County, Ontario, and Fred La Marmotte, the famous groundhog in Quebec's Gaspésie region, reportedly did not see their shadows this morning, which is good news for people tired of wintry weather. According to legend, there will be 6 more weeks of winter if a groundhog sees their shadow, and an early spring if they don't. Fred in Quebec made his prediction after some singing and dancing at the early morning event in Val-d'Espoir, and it's VAL-D''ESPOIRQ. After Fred was shown to the crowd and received kisses from his handler, he was taken to look for a shadow, and a child held up a sign that said, Un prétends hafi, which is UNPRINTEMPSHATIF, meaning an early spring. South of the border, Punxsutawney Phil contradicted his northern counterparts. He is said to have seen his shadow, predicting 6 more weeks of winter weather. One of Canada's most famous groundhogs, Nova Scotia's Shubenacadie Sam, and that's SHUBENACADIE, did not go ahead with her typical prediction event due to a forecast that calls for yet another winter storm in her home province. The Nova Scotia government announced the cancellation, saying blowing snow could create unsafe driving conditions for people traveling to Sam's home at Shubenacadie, and that's SHUBENACADIE Wildlife Park, about 50 kilometers north of Halifax. The provincial government said because she will not see a shadow today, folklore calls for an early spring. Environment Canada had winter storm and snowfall warnings for most of northern Scotia and Cape Breton late Sunday, calling up for 25 centimeters in some areas. Last year, Canada's most procrastinating rodents were split over spring's arrival. The tradition has ties to medieval Europe, when farmers believed that if hedgehogs emerged from their burrows to catch insects, it was a sure sign of early spring. This report by the Canadian Press was first published on February 2nd, 2026. The next article is under the category City Hall, and the title is Olivia Chow Releases Final Version of 2026 City Budget. These are her new initiatives for small businesses, seniors, and downtown safety. The mayor's final version of the 2026 spending plan maintains the earlier proposed 2.2% residential property tax increase. And there's a picture of Mayor Olivia Chow, and the caption reads, Mayor Olivia Chow during last year's final city council meeting in December. On Sunday, Chow released the final version of her 2026 city budget. And this article is written by, and that photo was taken by Andrew Francis Wallace of the Toronto Star, and it is a file photo. This article was written by Ben Spur, who is the City Hall Bureau Chief. Mayor Olivia Chow has released the final version of her 2026 city budget, adding new measures for small businesses, seniors, and a downtown safety initiative to the spending plan before it goes to council this month. In a summary posted to the city's website Sunday, Chow hammered home the message, saying that the last budget of her 3-year term is about delivering an affordable, caring, and safe city. The documents tote previously announced investments in child nutrition programs, a transit fare freeze, rental inspectors, library hours, and housing that were included in an earlier draft of the budget Chow and city staff unveiled January 8th. There's about $94 million more net spending each for the Toronto Police Service and TTC. Her final version maintains the earlier proposed 2.2% residential property tax increase, a hike in line with inflation and far lower than the increases she imposed in her first 2 years in office. Her plans are funded in part by a higher tax rate on the sale of more expensive homes, which Chow asserts has made the tax system more fair. The spending blueprint keeps the promise of the city that if you work here, you should be able to afford to live here. Chow wrote in an opening statement to the 32-page summary, which reads like a campaign platform and features more than a dozen photos of the mayor. Chow has not yet announced whether she plans to run for re-election in October, but she is widely expected to. Among the few changes from the earlier draft is a greater proposed tax break that will allow more than 28,000 small business owners to pay 20% less than others in the commercial class. The reduction was previously set at 15%. Chow's letter said that the deeper discount, which was recommended by her budget committee and would be paid for by shifting the tax burden to larger businesses, would, in quotes, make life more affordable and support more local jobs. Last week, Beach's East York councillor and mayoral hopeful Brad Bradford urged Chow to increase the discount even more to 25%, arguing that small businesses were, in quotes, being squeezed by rising costs and tax rates that have climbed under her administration. The mayor agreed to another recommendation from her budget committee and will boost funding for the Downtown East Action Plan by $542,000, according to her office. The initiative brings together organizations to address issues related to poverty, homelessness, drug use, and mental health in the city's core. Her budget also allocates $1.2 million in additional funding for a total of $7.6 million to programs that help seniors stay in their homes, such as cleaning and financial planning services. Chow announced the spending last week, saying it would eliminate the 3-year wait list for an initiative that helps older residents with cleaning, shopping, laundry, and meal preparation. The 2026 budget is made up of a $18.9 billion operating budget and a 10-year $63.1 billion capital plan. The version Chow helped to launch in January was a draft prepared by city staff under her direction and has since undergone public consultations and committee debate. According to the province's strong mayor legislation, the mayor must formally propose her version by February 1st each year. Her office said funding for all the changes in her version will be found from within the existing budget and won't increase overall spending. Chow's plan was posted to the city's website on the day of her deadline without fanfare. She was expected to speak about it at a press conference Monday. The budget will go to council on February 10th. Under the strong mayor legislation, councilors don't vote on whether to approve a budget as a whole, but can make changes to it. If they do, the mayor has the power to veto the amendments, a decision that can only be overturned by 2/3 vote of the council. Chow has pledged not to use the veto, calling it undemocratic. And Ben Spur is the Star City Hall bureau chief. Based in Toronto, you can reach him by email at bspurr@symbol The Star, period, CA. This next article is in sports and it's about the Leafs. The title is Maple Leafs Trade Forecast. Who's on the block and where are the buyers? The Olympic roster freeze starts Wednesday and the Leafs seem firmly in sell mode. And there's a picture of big forward Bobby McMann, and the caption states the Maple Leafs have received bang for the buck from big forward Bobby McMann, but might not be able to afford to re-sign him. And this picture was taken by Erza Shaw. And this article is written by Kevin McGran, who is a sports reporter. Vancouver. Don't look now, but the hottest scorer on the Maple Leafs is Max Domi with 3 goals and 4 assists in his last 5 games. Right behind him is Bobby McMann with 2 goals and 3 assists over that span. And for good measure, Kelly Jarnkrok, Jarnkrok, was the only regular without a minus beside his name in that stretch. Those 3 forwards and others will be mentioned in trade speculation and ad nauseum before and after the Olympic roster freeze, which starts Wednesday. The NHL trade deadline is March 6, and the Leafs seem firmly in sell mode, given how far they've fallen, 8 points out of the final wild card spot in the East heading into Sunday's auction. Defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson, winger Matthias Maccelli, center Scott Laughton, and their top 3 goalies are also in the discussion. It doesn't feel good, said Leafs defenseman Morgan Rielly. We've got our work cut out for us. We're in a spot in the standings that we haven't been before. We're doing everything we can to right the ship and play better hockey. A run of 9 Stanley Cup playoff appearances, the longest active streak, appears to be coming to an end. For the first time in Captain Austin Matthews' career, the Leafs will be the sellers. All that buying over the years has depleted their stock of draft picks and prospects. They've made a first-round selection just 3 times since 2019 and don't have their own first-rounder until 2028, although picks sent to Boston and Philadelphia have top 5 and top 10 protection. Meanwhile, the likes of Fraser Minten, who's with the Bruins, and Nikita Grebetkin, Grebetkin, who's with the Flyers, ply their trade elsewhere. Now, general manager Brad Treliving has an opportunity to refill the coffers. Some Leafs are off limits. Matthews, Tavares, Rielly, William Nylander, Matthew Knies, Easton Cowan, Chris Tanev, Tanev, and Jake McCabe. The rest could be moved if the price is right. Here's a look at the possibilities before Monday night's road trip with the Calgary Flames. Oliver Ekman-Larsson. The 34-year-old Swedish Olympian has been the Leafs' most consistent defenseman 2 seasons into a 4-year deal worth $3.5 million US per year. The Leafs would be selling high at his age. A first-round pick and high-end prospect would seem to be the asking price. The Edmonton Oilers, Utah Mammoth, and Pittsburgh Penguins could have interest. Bobby McMann. The big, speedy winger, 6'2", 217 pounds, is en route to a second consecutive 20-goal season at age 29. He'll be an unrestricted free agent in the summer and probably looking at a healthy raise to about $5 million a year. Players like this don't become available that often, and his current salary cap hit is so small, $1.35 million, that just about any contender could use him. The asking price should start at a first-round pick. If Treliving doesn't get that, the Leafs should consider re-signing him. Put the Oilers at the top of the list, with the Colorado Avalanche and Los Angeles Kings also coveting size and speed. Max Domi. The 30-year-old forward has a 13-team no-trade list and 2 years left on his contract with a $3.75 million cap hit. It feels like he was born to play for the Leafs, but all things come to an end. His playmaking and snarl are perfect for a playoff team. He can play center or wing or up or down the lineup. He has defensive flaws, but they can be hidden on a good team. Retaining some salary could improve the return, even from a team that's not heading to the playoffs. The New York Rangers, for example. Scott Lofton. The Leafs want to bring him back and give him a bigger role next season. But if contract talks don't go well, he's very tradable. The Leafs gave up a top 10 protected pick in 2027 plus Grebinkin, Grebenkin, to get him and would want something close to that now for a glue guy whose grinding physical style is made for the playoffs. Don't be surprised if the Kings come knocking. Brandon Carlo. The lanky right shot defenseman was acquired from Boston at a high price and has a year left on his deal, with the Leafs carrying a cap hit worth $3.485 million, 85% of the $4.1 million average annual value. He also has an 8-team no-trade clause. The Leafs reportedly tried to move the 29-year-old Carlo to the Buffalo Sabres for Bowen Byram, a 24-year-old top-tier defenseman, overshadowed by Rasmus Dahlin, Dahlin. The Winnipeg Jets, although not playoff bound, might like that he's under contract for another season. Kelly Jarnkrok, Jarnkrok. The 35-year-old forward has already committed to playing in Europe next season. He's an ideal depth forward, defense-minded, with a shot that can surprise. 4 years ago, the Calgary Flames got him from Seattle Kraken for second, third, and seventh round picks. The asking price won't be that high this time. The Penguins and Montreal Canadiens might be fits. Matias Marcelli. The 24-year-old forward earned $3.425 million and will be a restricted free agent eligible for salary arbitration in the summer. That usually means a raise, and the Leafs probably won't be interested. He has struggled to drive play in his first season as a Leaf, and it feels like he's being showcased. If the Leafs are going to move on from him in free agency, they might as well see what they can get now. The Bruins, Kraken, and Detroit Red Wings are looking for depth scoring. The goalies. Dennis Hildeby has proven he can play in the NHL, but next season he'll require waivers if the Leafs try to send him to the AHL. Marlies, and he never clear. It feels like the Leafs are force-feeding starts to Anthony Stolarz, Stolarz, in an attempt to get him up to speed. Meanwhile, Joseph Woll appears to be the clear number one. They'll surely only have 2 of them next season, so Treliving should find a trade partner soon. All 3 carry team-friendly cap hits. Woll, $3.67 million, and Hildeby, $841,000, are signed until 2028. Stolarz, $3.75 million till 2023. The Flyers and Columbia's Blue Jackets could be in the market. How this might play out. The Leafs probably think this season is a one-off, that, like Boston last season, they were incredibly unlucky, especially with injuries. They won't trade all of these players, but could refill the cupboard with assets to use next season at the deadline. 2 high draft picks, 3 or 4 middling ones, and a couple of high-end prospects should be the target. And Kevin McGran is a star sports reporter based in Toronto. This next is under the section of the GTA, and the title is Thousands Rally in Toronto to Support Iran Uprising, Call for a Regime Change. In Toronto, thousands of people gathered in downtown Toronto on Sunday to protest Iran's Islamic Republic and voice support for Iranians killed during weeks of countrywide unrest. And there's a picture of people, and the caption reads, with signs, and the caption reads, thousands gathered in Toronto on Sunday to show support for the Iranian people as a deadly uprising sweeps through the Middle Eastern country. And this photo is by the Canadian Press and was taken on February 1st of 2026. And this article is written by Sandra Ezekwesili, and that's Ezekwesili of the Canadian Press. Toronto. Thousands of people gathered in downtown Toronto on Sunday to protest Iran's Islamic Republic and voice support for Iranians killed during weeks of countrywide unrest. Demonstrators filled Sankofa Square, waving Iranian flags and holding photos of victims as they called for regime change and international intervention. The rally was one of the several held in Toronto and across Canada in recent weeks. Yalda, an Iranian, and that's Yalda, an Iranian who attended the protest, said her 42-year-old cousin was killed during demonstrations in Iran. While holding up a sign that had her cousin's picture on it, she said he was unarmed when he was killed and left behind a 13-year-old son. He was empty-handed. He didn't have anything in his hand, she said. They killed him just for asking for human rights. Yalda was one of the several protesters who didn't want their full names used for safety reasons. Many still have family there. Farbod, Farbod, a youth who said he fled Iran because of government repression, said there is no freedom under the current regime, particularly for women. If you show a little bit of hair, they're going to kill you, he said. Countrywide protests erupted in Iran on December 28th after an economic crisis sent the country's currency into a free fall. While early demonstrations were driven by rising costs of living, protesters have since shifted their focus to broader demands for political change. Some demonstrators in Toronto said Iranians inside the country are unable to challenge the government on their own because of violent crackdowns. Amir, a protester at Sunday's rally, called on Western governments to intervene. They are shooting people without hesitating, he said. They are shooting their own people in the streets. Others voiced support for the return of Iran's exiled crown prince, Navid Kadhiwini, and that's Khadiwini, an Iranian film director, said he believes Reza Pahlavi, Pahlavi, should be allowed to return to the country. He's from the royal family who already proved themselves and served the country for decades, Kadhiwini said. Lloyd Morgan, who attended the rally with Kadhiwini, said remaining silent is not an option. Silence and complacency, Morgan said. If you're not saying anything, then you're choosing a side. Younger demonstrators also spoke out. Kalina, 10, said her great-grandmother is back in Iran and she is out protesting because she wants to ensure she is safe and make sure she is happy and she doesn't get hurt. Some demonstrators say they believe the government's fall is inevitable. Leila Babai, Babai, said it is only a matter of time before the Islamic Republic is removed from power. It's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when, Babalini said. Iran's government said more than 3,000 people have been killed since protests erupted. Human rights groups and opposition organizations estimate the death toll could be significantly higher, with some placing it as high as 36,500 people. Toronto police were present at Sankofa Square and along nearby streets during the demonstration, but no arrests were made and the event remained peaceful. And this is with files from the Associated Press, and this report by the Canadian Press was first published February 1st, 2026. This next article is under politics, and the title is, Will a disappointed Doug Ford and Mark Carney get over their differences on Chinese EVs? The Premier is ticked with the Prime Minister for agreeing to allow up to 49,000 Chinese EVs into Canada at a tariff rate of 6.1%. And there's a photograph and has a Canadian flag in the back, and it's Prime Minister Mark Carney listens as Premier Doug Ford speaks during a news conference in Ottawa on December 18, 2025, And this photo was taken by Dave Chan, and it's an AFP via Getty Images. And this article is written by Robert Benzie, who is Queen's Parks Bureau Chief. It feels a bit Taylor Swiftian. Hurt feelings, unsent texts, exotic trips with someone else, yearning for what was last summer. Premier Doug Ford sounded like a spurned paramour from a Swift song as he bleated about Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to China with Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe. It was only 6 months ago that Carney was bunking at Ford's Muskoka Cottage before a First Minister's meeting in Huntsville, the two of them staying up to the wee hours by the fire, solving all the world's problems by the Premier's fond recollection. But that was then, and this is now. It's safe to say that when the First Ministers gather next Wednesday in Ottawa, Ford won't be enjoying a sleepover with Carney at Rideau Cottage, comparing notes about whether, in quotes, the life of a showgirl is as good as Midnight's, in quotes. The Premier is ticked with the Prime Minister for agreeing to allow up to 49,000 Chinese EVs into Canada at a tariff rate of 6.1%, down from the previous 100% rate, in exchange for Beijing cutting counter tariffs on Canada, canola, and seafood. I'm disappointed because we had such a great relationship, and I look forward to continuing a great relationship, but it's all about communication and collaboration and partnership. They keep preaching it, Ford complained to reporters on Monday. The Prime Minister knows my number, and I thought we had a good enough relationship that he'd given me a quick text or a little bit of communication. That never happened. Well, at least I know where I stand now. Instead, the Premier learned of the deal with China just a few hours before it was made public from Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Michael Sabia, clerk of the Privy Council. Senior Ontario officials speaking confidentially in order to discuss internal deliberations. Stress Ford values personal relationships and was disconcerted by the lack of the heads-up from Carney, with whom he has texted frequently. It was an uncharacteristic snub from a Prime Minister who has visited the Premier's Etobicoke, Etobicoke home at least 3 times before and after the cottage confab near Bucolic, Bucolic, Port Sydney. Carney has worked hard to cultivate a relationship with Ford. 3 days after succeeding Justin Trudeau as Liberal leader last March, and 2 days from being sworn in as a Prime Minister, he traveled to Etobicoke for a private breakfast with the Premier at Wally's Grill on Rexdale Boulevard. During last April's federal election campaign, where the Liberals employed the same anti-Donald Trump playbook as the provincial progressive Conservatives used in their February vote, Carney carved out precious campaign hours for a pep talk from Ford at the Premier's house before the televised leaders' debate in Montreal. The Premier, the most successful Tory politician in Canada, gave the rookie Prime Minister shrewd advice about leaning into his experience as a successful businessman and central banker. That counsel helped Carney fend off barbs from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who has spent the previous 2 decades sharpening his debating skills in the House of Commons. As Trump's trade war on Canada raged, the Prime Minister and the Premier played good cop, bad cop against the mercurial U.S. presidents. Trump used the Ford's government anti-tariff TV commercial featuring a 1987 speech of former President Ronald Reagan denouncing levies as the excuse for abandoning talks with Canada, forcing Carney to apologize. That episode strained the bromance between Carney's 2 most powerful politicians, but not as much as the Chinese EV deal. Don't use Ontario and the auto workers here as a pawn. Everyone got something except Ontario. All we got is a massive threat of Chinese vehicles that are coming here that are going to hurt every single auto sector worker, fumed Ford. So, are they never ever getting back together? Speaking on CTV's Power Play with Vasi Kapoulas on Monday after Ford's grousing, former federal conservative cabinet member Lisa Raitt advised the premier and the prime minister to chill because they need to have to work together to protect Canada from Trump. Maybe the parties are going to have to shake it off, just like Taylor Swift used to say, said Raitt. Robert Benzie is a Star Queen's Park Bureau Chief and a reporter covering Ontario politics. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article is under Personal Finance, and it is an opinion. The title is Follow These 4 Money Rules to Save Big and Have a Fabulous Frugal February. February is notoriously expensive, writes Leslie Ann Scourgy. It's also a great time to get your financial house in order by putting to work several money-saving strategies. And this article is written by Leslie Ann Scourgy, a contributing columnist. And Leslie is a Toronto-based personal finance columnist and freelance contributing columnist for The Star. February is notoriously expensive for families with children for good reason. Summer camp registrations land, Christmas credit card balances are still being paid off, couples are celebrating Valentine's Day, and savers are stretching to make RRSP contributions before the 2025 tax deadline on March 2nd. If more money and feeling better in February is what you're chasing, here are 4 money rules to adopt. Rule 1. Be efficient, not misery or miserable. This principle centers on saving money without making life worse. It's intended to protect your quality of life rather than destroy it through cheap money moves that, not surprisingly, never work out. Being efficient will also lighten your ecological footprint because there's less waste. A few simple efficiency ideas that cost you nothing. Run full laundry and dishwasher loads. Lower the thermostat slightly and bundle up. Fix weather stripping on drafty doors and windows. Fix or replace leaky faucets and run on toilet parts. YouTube videos are amazing when it comes to teaching how to DIY these repairs. Before buying anything new, use up what you have. Dig to the backs of your cupboards, medicine cabinets, pantries, garbage shelves, and your refrigerator. From body lotions to food to restyling the clothes you already have, use these items up when something is actually needed by good quality so that it lasts longer and feels great. If you're not sure how to classify a need versus a want, wait 48 hours before buying, which is enough time for any impulses to fade away. If the need is really big, say a laptop replacement, it might require even more time to do research and potentially consult with your financial advisor. Rule 2. Default to home for food and drinks. The category of food and drinks is probably the fastest, least painful place to save. Challenge yourself to design a meal plan for the full month, and don't forget to account for any special recipes you like to try on Valentine's Day. Your plan can include a treat here and there. That's totally healthy and normal. Meal planning will help you avoid buying ridiculously expensive food delivery takeout and will help keep your grocery shopping on target. It's a fantastic way to eat healthier whole foods and will save you time having to return to the store for random ingredients. Plan to make your work coffee at home and pack a lunch using any leftovers and lingering ingredients from the fridge. Keep snacks on hand so you won't have to do any convenience snack purchases, especially for your kids who are always starving when you pass by a Tim Hortons. Your wallet will thank you. Rule 3. Plug your financial leaks. Money leaks are often tiny, overlooked costs that are rarely missed when gone, but can add up to big savings. These include little things like used subscriptions and memberships, silly late fees and penalties that are completely avoidable, and small recurring charges here and there. The best way to hunt down these costs is to go line by line through your past 30 days of spending and review everything that hit your bank account and credit card statements. When you see a transaction, you know it is either a waste or not bringing you joy. Flag it. These can be canceled, reduced, or paused. Measuring and tracking your weekly spending is a great practice to continue beyond February. It shines a light on habits that are helping your goals and those are hindering. You're bound to uncover costs that are more fixed. Many can be negotiated, saving even bigger sums. Roll up your sleeves and renegotiate utility, internet, phone, and insurance plans by calling the provider and reviewing your pricing and services. Be prepared to present them with a competitive offer that demonstrates better value and or lowering pricing elsewhere. Many providers will match. I recently did this with my home and auto policy and have saved more than $1,000 for the year. Negotiating can take time, but pays you back each month. Rule 4, declutter and purge daily. Declutter and purge 3 items every day. If it's worth more than $25, post it for sale on Kijiji, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, or your local swap and sell website. Your space will feel better, and hopefully you'll earn some money that you can use to build an emergency fund, pay off your credit card, or make an RRSP contribution. If you want to supercharge your frugal February, challenge yourself to save a few dollars each day. Simply transfer or deposit this money into a savings account and see just how quickly it adds up. An easy $5 a day for 28 days is $140. Over a year, you'll have socked away $1,825. Not bad for the cost of a Starbucks. And the savings will make you feel fabulous. This next article is under GTA, and the title is, As Toronto Standards Like the Beer Market Close, New Concepts Are Reshaping Nightlife. Running a bar is more of an art. From rising rents to shifting habits, Toronto's bars and restaurants are finding creative ways to keep customers coming through the door. And this article is by Amici Amandike, and it's AMARACICHIAMADIKE, who's a staff reporter. For those who came up in the age of the early 2000s, Beer Market on the Esplanade was the backdrop to countless memories, even some they might not fully remember. For 30 years, its walls absorbed drunken conversations, foster boisterous laughter, and nights that linger long after the last call. Beer Market is closing its doors, marking the end of what once was a national chain, and leaving Ottawa with a single remaining outpost. Just several days before Beer Market officially closed its doors to the public, Prenup Pub on College Street announced its own closure, prompting questions about whether European-style beers, the specialty of both establishments, are falling out of favor in Toronto. But industry insiders say the closures have less to do with what's on tap and more to do with rising rents, ongoing construction, and the challenge of adapting pre-pandemic business models to a post-pandemic reality. At the same time, a wave of new establishments is attempting to reinvent old models with more flexible, affordable, and multi-purpose spaces. Jordan St. John, a Toronto-based beer writer and consultant who once helped persuade Ontario's government that grocery store beer sales would succeed, said European beers remain popular in the city and that recent closures have little to do with shifting consumer taste. The European beers are doing really well at the moment, actually, St. John said. Robert Mittag, another Toronto beer expert, echoed the sentiment, noting that many establishments are actively seeking to import European beers. We have excellent trade with Europe, Mittag said. I think they come in at a decent price, so I think the pricing is dictating a lot of things at the moment. To hospitality industry observers, Beer Market's closure, one of several shuttered locations across the chain, appears to be a financial decision. The important thing to take away from Beer Market's closure is that it is a space on the Esplanade, Esplande, St. John said. With the Goose Island Brewhouse next door also having announced its closure in December 2025, St. John suspects the decision is less tied to what's being poured and more to what's being charged, specifically the pressure of renegotiating leases as rental costs continue to climb across the city. Such is the case for Prenup Pub owner Atif Girgis, Girgis, whose College Street location is slated for redevelopment once his lease expires. It wasn't a surprise because they had a demolition permit to put in affordable housing, Girgis said, noting that his pub is expected to close on February 8th. I didn't close because of the economic situation. After 12 years on College Street, Girgis has relocated the Spirit of Prenup Pub to a new venue, Blessing in Disguise at 150 John Street, hoping it will still be a home of U of T students and faculties, similar to Prenup's legacy. The beer tower came from Prenup, Girgis said. Some of the furniture came from Prenup. With another bar, Make Ends Meet, having launched just a few months ago, in addition to ownership of Sin and Redemption, Town Crier Pub, and Village Idiot Pub, Girgis appears confident in the resiliency of Toronto's hospitality industry, even as operators continue to navigate rising costs and redevelopment pressures. Still, he acknowledged the difficulties of keeping the lights on in the modern era, telling the Star that business has dropped dramatically since COVID-19. I don't think it's going to recover or get to that point it used to be anymore, he said, adding that the younger generation aren't drinking as much. It's a different time, he said. So what does it take to run a successful restaurant in Toronto in 2026? With drills buzzing in the background as construction continued on their new restaurant, Cafe Gigi / The Dirty Laundry, co-owners Robert Goodfellow and Aldo Pescatore Tardioli, Tardioli, spoke to the Star about how good the post-pandemic landscape has forced restaurants about how the post-pandemic landscape has forced restaurants to rethink what success looks like. You can't fight the tide, Goodfellow said. I owned a bunch of places pre-pandemic, and we were met with adversity that no one in 100 years has dealt with. I personally lost over $1 million because we designed and created spaces without a pandemic in mind. Those losses, he said, reshaped how he now approaches hospitality. Cafe Gigi, The Dirty Laundry, currently under construction, is being built with those hard lessons in the forefront. The shift includes rethinking profit margins, something long-standing establishments often struggle to do because of fixed realities such as space constraints, sign, and legacy business models. We reversed engineered it from how can we make people afford it today and not how can we make as much money as possible, Goodfellow said. Located in the former home of beloved Queen West Speakeasy Cold Tea, which closed last fall, Goodfellow said a new establishment is something Toronto needs right now, amid a wave of bar and restaurant closures across the city. There's a lot of places that I love, places that I used to go to 2 to 3 times a week in 2019, that I cannot afford to go to anymore because they established their image based on pre-pandemic existence, Goodfellow said. They're having a more difficult time adjusting. For Goodfellow, part of the challenge facing modern hospitality lies in leadership itself. He suggests that success of today's restaurants may depend more heavily on owners being present and actively involved in day-to-day operations, questioning whether bars can thrive without truly hands-on management, which in turn saves costs. I don't know, he admitted, but that's my opinion. One of the key ingredients to success, however, according to Pescatore Tardioli, is giving people a compelling reason to leave their homes. With Torontonians eating out less frequently in the post-pandemic era, he said programming has become increasingly important to a restaurant's survival. Whether that means offering different experiences throughout the day, hosting events, or giving a space multiple identities beyond the traditional dinner and drinks model. Opening just a new cocktail bar? I don't know if that's enough, Pescatori Tardoli said. Expected to launch in March, Gigi's Cafe and the Dirty Laundry will operate as two distinct venues within a single space, though not tied together, apart from the fact they're in the same building. The approach reflects broader changes in the hospitality industry since the pandemic, a period Goodfellow describes as the one where operators previously felt they could kind of do no wrong, as customers were eager simply to go out. Programming is what every bar used to need, Goodfellow said, and now the programming has come full circle. As restaurants increasingly have to entice people back into dining rooms and bars, industry observers say strong food, cocktails, and service are now baseline expectations rather than defining features. What once made a venue a cool hipster destination is no longer enough. I think we're returning to a place where running a bar is more of an art, Goodfellow said. Armachi Amadik is a staff reporter with the Toronto Star. He can be reached at his email, which is @thestar.ca. Our next article is under entertainment, and it's the Grammys 2026 highlights. Bad Bunny, Billie Eilish get political, Justin Bieber performs in his boxers. And this article is written by David Friend, culture reporter. After weeks of intense political anxiety gripping the United States, some of the music industry's brightest stars met the moment at the 68th Annual Grammy Awards on Sunday with powerful statements of solidarity. There were also several historic and heartwarming moments. Kendrick Lamar became the most awarded rapper in history, while Bad Bunny became the first Spanish-language artist to win Album of the Year. Here are some of the most unforgettable highlights from the music's biggest night. Kendrick Lamar took the crown. It didn't take long for Kendrick Lamar to command attention at this year's Grammys. After emerging victorious in his beef with Drake at last year's show, where he swept all 5 of the categories he was nominated in, the LA rapper took a victory lap on his legendary status by breaking Jay-Z's record for the most awarded rapper right out of the gate on the broadcast. Lamar's GNX was named Best Rap Album, which pushed him past Jay-Z's previous record of 25 wins. Hip-hop is always going to be right here, Lamar said in his speech. We're going to be having the culture with us. Lamar bumped his career tally to 27 later in the night as he shared a record of the year win with SZA, SZA for their chart-performing single, Luther. His tour mate and collaborator joined him on stage and delivered a moment of inspiration against the heavy cloud over the evening. Please don't fall into despair, SZA told the room. I know that the algorithms tell us that it's so scary and all is lost. There's been world wars, there's been plagues, and we have gone on. We can go on. We need each other. We need to trust each other and trust ourselves. Trust your heart. We're not governed by the government. We're governed by God. Host Trevor Noah borrowed Nicki Minaj. Grammy host Trevor Noah foreshadowed the political edge of the night early in the proceedings as he waded through the crowd of famous faces during his opening monologue. After greeting Miley Cyrus, Justin Bieber, and others, he dropped a bomb. Nicki Minaj was in the building. It was a joke he couldn't keep up for long, admitting a few seconds later that he was just kidding. Nicki Minaj is not here, he confirmed to the rapturous applause. Minaj grabbed headlines last week for meeting with Donald Trump and declaring herself his #1 fan. She is still at the White House with Donald Trump discussing very important issues, Noah said before diving into an impression of the new U.S. president. Actually, Nicki, I have the biggest ass. Everybody's saying it, Nicki. Noah revisited the tense political climate throughout the show, aiming several of his punchlines at Trump and the collective anxiety tied to the current U.S. administration. Sharing that this will be his 6th and final year as Grammy's host, he explained his thinking. I believe in term limits, he said. I wanted to set an example for anyone who's watching the show. Bad Bunny and Billie Eilish got political. Many performers used their speeches to address the tension around U.S. immigration and customs enforcement agents. Bad Bunny didn't mince words on ice when he accepted his Best Musica Urbana album for, I'm just going to spell this out, DEBITIRARMASFOTOS. Ice out, he declared to the roaring applause. We're not savage, we're not aliens, we're not animals. We are humans and we are Americans. He returned to the stage to accept the historic Spanish language album of the year when, with tears in his eyes. I want to dedicate this award to all the people who had to leave their homeland to chase their dreams, he said. A shocked Billie Eilish won Song of the Year for Wildflower over several assumed frontrunners, including Apt by Bruno Mars and Rosé, and Golden by Huntrix, Huntrix. Eilish, a longtime favorite of Grammy voters, seemed taken aback by the surprise win, but quickly turned the attention to the moment. No one is illegal on stolen land, she said. It's just really hard to know what to say and what to do right now. I feel really hopeful in this room, and I feel like we just need to keep fighting and speaking and protesting. Justin Bieber stripped down for a solo. Canadian superstar Justin Bieber wore only a pair of boxer shorts and socks when he stepped into the spotlight to perform his minimalist song, Yukon. The stripped-back performance, his first at the Grammys in 4 years, brought the audience to their feet. It felt like we were seeing a more mature side of the former team heartthrob. Bieber became a father in August 2024. The camera caught more than once to his wife Hailey, watching lovingly, and has since been gradually moving away from his teeny bopper roots and towards a more sophisticated R&B sound. Joni Mitchell won her 11th Grammy. Canadian legend Joni Mitchell won her Best Historic Album for Joni Mitchell Archives, Volume 4, The Asylum Years, a sprawling collection of previously unreleased records from the 1970s, at the Grammys premiere ceremony, a pre-telecast event where most of the awards were handed out. The 82-year-old singer-songwriter took to the stage wearing Ice Out button, which were a popular accessory at the Golden Globes in January, though she didn't talk about the protests against immigration officers in her speech, allowing the pin to speak for itself. When Mitchell's win was announced and she came on stage, she told the adoring audience, "This is the most glittering glam I ever saw at the Grammys." She appeared not to realize she had won the award, asking her companion, "Did I win? Oh, I won." She went on to speak about 2 other albums from her past. Mitchell's win puts her career tally at 11 trophies. Canadian hitmaker Circuit got a double. Halifax-born pop powerhouse Circuit, aka Henry Walter, had a Grammy in each hand early in the night as he landed trophies with some help from Lady Gaga. The hitmaker won the Best Dance Pop recording for Gaga's Ecapodabra and producer of last year for a selection of tracks he helped shape last year, including Rosé and Bruno Mars' smash single Apt. Walter has spent more than a decade turning out pop earworms for the likes of Rihanna, Katy Perry, and Ed Sheeran, but he used his acceptance speech to show he wasn't forgetting his roots. "Once upon a time, I was a kid from Canada making beats in my bedroom, and now I'm here," he said. Walter was also nominated for songs in the Marquee Record, Song, and Album categories handed out on the main show. Rufus Wainwright moonlighted as the Dalai Lama. Talk about an unlikely pairings. Canadian singer Rufus Wainwright acknowledged it was a little odd that he was accepting a Grammy on behalf of the Dalai Lama, who won his first Grammy for the audiobook Meditations, The Reflections of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, beating out U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and the evening's host Trevor Noah. "I'm not the Dalai Lama," obviously admitted Wainwright, whose vocals appeared on the audiobook. It was a privilege to participate in this project. Toronto musician Justin Gray made history. Toronto's Justin Gray became the first Canadian to win Best Immersive Audio Album for his aptly titled Immersed. The bassist and Humber Polytechnic music professor created the album to be heard on Dolby Atmos surround sound system, which seemed to be music to the ears of Recording Academy. Gray has spent the last decade remixing songs into the 360-degree sound format, which included albums from Arkells, Mother Mother, and Olivia Rodrigo. Gray told the Star on Sunday evening that he was still spinning from the wind. It all happened very fast, he said in a call from the awards show. It feels surreal, but it also feels, I don't know, there's a sense of just pure joy. David Friend writes about arts and culture in Toronto and beyond. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the February 2nd, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star. Your reader has been Judy, and I thank you for listening and for being you, and I hope you have an awesome, amazing day. Thank you so much.